You are. That's why we pay you top dollar.
That's not true at all. All right. So I'm recording now. So
Hey,
ground rules.
Patty's here.
Hey, Patty. All right. So listen, guys. Before you do a demo, there's certain things you've got to do before you do it. Okay. You can't just run into this thing and expect to wing a demo. A lot of people may think they can. Folks like John and Neil may be able to go in and do a demo in 5 minutes, where it may take someone that's a newer rep longer than 5 minutes to do it. But the same ground rules are going to apply. I'm glad those guys are in here because they can give some insight as to what they do, what they haven't done, and see if anything's different from where I'm at. It's not working out too good for me. All right, so the first thing you got to understand is you got to go back to the future. You got to go back before you can go forward, okay? So you got to understand, just think about, and so let's back up a second and think about where we are. We've done a lot of prospecting. How many closed loss phone calls have you done, Linda? How many closed loss people have you called? Over 100. So much stuff has been done on a closed loss list. So think about where you started in this process with a closed loss list or with a list from a partner or from whatever. You started with this list, right? And you've called this list and you've done how many discovery calls with them before they've gotten to a demo? 1, 2, 3. I mean, there's all kinds of conversations that you're having. So a lot of the times we rush really hard to get to the demo and we forget a lot of the steps. What we've done is we've trained a lot and we've talked a lot about the discovery call before we even got to this point. I mean, you guys have been here almost 90 days and this is the first time that we're sitting down talking about a demo. So we can never lose sight on how important the discovery call was. You know a lot of information in that discovery call. What should you know? The current process. Why would they buy my stuff? What do they sell? How do they sell it? All this stuff, right? You know everything you need to know. If you, and I've said this 100 times and I'll say it again, if you don't know why they would buy Avalara, you should not be here in the process. You should not be in a demo. Do not show anyone a demo until you've uncovered why in the world would they partner with Avalara. I'm trying to change my vocabulary. I keep saying buy our stuff. I'm changing that. Why would they partner with Avalara? If you don't know that, don't go to a demo. Make sense? That's what I mean by back to the future. Plus I reference the flux capacitor from time to time. So it's called foreshadowing for those that don't know. Here's the second ground rule. It is not rocket science. Okay, this is not heart surgery. This is not rocket science. This is not anything hard, okay? I was not given a brain of a rocket scientist. I was given the brain of a salesperson, which is not equal to the science, not equal to rocket science. The more you try to complicate it and the more you try to make it like rocket science, the harder it's going to be for you to uncover what this whole process is all about. Okay, does that make sense? So ground rule number 2 is it's not rocket science. Don't try to overcomplicate things. Number 3, you got to do your homework before a call and you've got to have a plan before that call. Okay, that's ground rule number 3. Have a plan. Do your homework, have a plan. I'm going to show you how to do that inside the demo console in a second. I'll show you how I do it. A lot of this is going to be just exactly what I've done throughout my sales career, and these are kind of my rules. It's not enough just to show up. You got to have a plan. Okay? The whole thing around this process should be a comparison and contrast. You should compare. It should never be selling something to them. It should always be, hey, Joe, remember last week when we talked in our discovery call, you told me you were doing it this way. Cool, this is what it would look like with Avalara. Not saying your way's wrong. I'm not saying my way is right. I'm saying this is the way you're doing it today versus what it would look like with Avalara. Would that make sense to you guys? So it's always a compare and contrast. John, go ahead.
It's great to use that terminology where you can reference the previous call, tell them you said, especially if there's other peers or supervisors, because you're taking exactly what they told you and bringing it to the next call. You said, this is how you do it. You said, these are the challenges. You know, it's not you're assuming or you're putting words in their mouth. You're taking the information that they provided you with and you're just reiterating it back to their group.
100%. To piggyback on that, you guys have heard me in training say, a discovery call is never about, Keith, let me pull you in the corner. Let me pull you in the corner and just make you sit there. And I'm going to pull you and physically put you in the corner. It's all about Oh, really? You do it that way? Why do you do it that way? Oh, walk me through that. Walk me through that. Walk me through that. And you're just leading them into the corner. To John's point, if you guys do a discovery call, and then you just put those notes in Salesforce, and then you just move on to a demo with never referencing that, you're wasting time. Don't even do it. Don't do the demo. Exactly to John's point, you have to be, that's why the discovery call is listening. If you're not listening in the discovery call, and if you don't understand what their process is, how can you compare and contrast today's process versus what it looks like with Avalara? Does that make sense? Because this one slide is the entire concept of the entire process of a demo. We're not selling anything, guys. We're not pitching anything. We're not selling OxyClean. We're not the pitch man, okay? We're comparing what it looks like today versus what it looks like with Avalara. And do you think, prospect, that this would make sense for your business? If it does, great. If it doesn't, that's still okay with me, okay? Any questions on that piece? Okay, ground rule number X. I forgot what rule we're on. Don't sell anything. Okay, this is a partnership, and I'm working on this. I'm working on saying things like, would this make sense for you guys to buy our stuff? Or would it make sense for you guys to buy Avalara? Would it make sense for us to partner together? Okay, and if you do your discovery call correctly, and if you go through the process of doing your demo correctly, then that's what it's going to look like, is a partnership. It's not going to look like we're selling anything or trying to push something down your throat. Okay? And the last ground rule, probably the most important ground rule that we've got. You have to keep it simple. You have to keep it simple. Do you think a process that a customer has today where it's doing manual, internal, zip code files and all that stuff, do you think that's a simple process or a complex process? Okay, I'll share the answer. It's complex. It's very complex, okay? So if I'm going to replace their complex process with another complex process, I'm really good at sales, but I'm not that good. Does that make sense? So here's your ground rules, okay? One, go back. One, discovery call. Very important to have a good discovery call. If they don't know why, don't do a demo. Rule one. It's not rocket science. Have a plan. Do your homework. John, how much time do you prep for a demo?
I do at least 20 minutes.
How long have you been here?
3 years.
How many demos do you think you've done?
Hundreds.
And you're still taking 20 minutes to do a demo. So here's what that means for you, Linda. You probably need to do 45 minutes. But there's a really fine line there. What I don't want you to do is spend 6 hours researching a demo that's going to take 30 minutes. That's not being very smart. 20 minutes, 30 minutes, you got to spend that time. John Perry, who's been here forever, was here for a meeting last week, had a 10 o'clock demo. He left the meeting at 9:30 to prep for the demo. Made sure his screens worked, made sure his technology was set up correctly, made sure his demo deck was set up correctly. Because here's what you need to know. This is the only chance you get. Linda, let's go back in time. Let's back to the future and flux capacitor this thing. How many phone calls did you make from a closed WASP list before you got them to a discovery call?
There's some that are questions.
Hundreds. You made a lot of phone calls. And now you got them to a discovery call. How many discovery calls did you have? Probably 2 or 3. Now we're at the end. Your margin of error right now is really small because you've done a really good job of convincing them that, yes, we need to look at this. Think about how much convincing you've done and how smart you've been to get them to this point. You can lose all of that work right here, okay, by not having a plan of doing your homework. Next rule again, compare and contrast how it works versus what they're doing today. It's a partnership, not selling, and you got to keep it simple. Any questions on the ground rules? Go ahead.
For the keep it simple part as well, like that goes into the prepping, what Chris was talking about. John's making sure all his screens are lined up, all the information's in there, he has access to what he needs. Your job is to do this. If you can't do this, how confident is that person going to be? If you don't make it look simple, which it is simple, but if you are, fumbling around this stuff, how much confidence does that person on the other end of the phone have? Keep it high level, very simple. I'm sure you will see the difference when an engineer needs to get into the weeds with someone that's being very technical and asking those questions versus what our expectations are, for all of our peers.
Clete, you've done this a lot longer than any of us. Anything you'd like to add or anything that you would like to deviate or talk about in those ground rules?
Well,
So I do it a little differently in the sense that when we met and I did my little training, I've been here 7 years, and I've probably done let's say 30 demos in my career here at Avalara. I don't do a lot of demos, and the reason for that, and I think what you hit, Chris, is everything to me focuses on the discovery. And one of the things I ask is what do you need from me to support your decision? And then they tell me that, and then I prioritize that. So if they give me a list of 3 things, then I prioritize it. And if they don't say a demo, I don't do a demo. And if I do a demo, I understand what do you want to see from the demo? What's the purpose of the demo? And then I only show them what they need. So again, because everything else is risk, right? So if they need to see my face, then I show them my face and we sign the deal. So everything is focused on what do you need to buy? That's it.
Yep. Okay. All right. So moving on from ground rules, this is my slide deck. Okay. I am not a PowerPoint guy. Okay, I'll just to tell you right now, it's ridiculous that we have 28 PowerPoints before we start doing a demo. How many people pay attention to PowerPoints? Not many. I'm through slide probably 7 or 8, and I've already lost some of you. Okay, through 7 or 8 slides, I've already lost you guys, and I'm in the room with you. Okay, so what's that tell you? If you're in a go-to meeting with someone that's in their office, how many people have been on site to a prospect before? What's their office look like, James? It ain't look like Avalara, does it? No. It's in an industrial park somewhere. They're probably in an office that looks like the size of a closet, and they're doing 100 million things. And now here you come trying to sell them software on a go-to meeting, and you've got 45 slides. That's not going to work. Okay? I've got some slides mixed in here that I typically don't use, and I'll point those out. But my title slide always looks like this. And I take, it's pretty standard. I've got my picture. Someone professionally took that. And then I've got the logo. Does everyone have the snippet tool on their laptop? Okay, everybody have it? Nobody has it? Okay, snippet.com should be on there. If not, get with IT and get it. I go to the customer's website where their logo is located. I go to a snippet and I snip the logo and I paste it in the PowerPoint. I used to go to Google Images and find it. Here's what happened. I downloaded and looked at an old logo. I just found one that I thought was the right one, and it wasn't the right one. And the customer pointed it out that I got the wrong logo. Okay? So I'm already trying to do this partnership thing that I've got Avalara on one side, ThriveHive on the other, and I've got my picture. Another thing that I'm working on, and Patty's helping point this out, is that it's important to show your webcam. We all hate it. No one hates to show their webcam more than me, because you can see yourself talk, and that's horrible. Like, that's the worst thing on the planet. That is the worst thing, to see yourself talk. But it's really impactful, and it's important for the customer to see your face. Keith, talk about that customer we saw on site yesterday. How long did we talk about Avalara? We had a 2-hour meeting, including lunch. How long did we talk about Avalara?
Probably about 25% of the time, even.
25% of the time. It's all about relationship building and people buy from who they like. So I always use this as my title slide. Okay? This is the slide that I show maybe 20% of the time. I typically won't show the slide very much, but if someone's not really, if they don't have it yet as to what Avalara offers, I'll show this slide to talk briefly on what are the 3 core products that we offer. Starts on the front end with our tax calculation engine. We can handle your B2B sales through exempt certificates. And then on the last piece is we can fully automate the way that you guys file and remit your tax returns. So here's what's important. When I go through these slide decks, what don't you see? A lot of words. There's not a lot of words. So here's where the onus comes on you guys to practice. This is what you have to do. You have to take a picture that's on a slide and explain it in words so everyone can understand it. My talk track is this. Avalara's got 3 core products. Avatax, which is the tax calculation engine on the front end. We handle your exempt certificates in the middle for your B2B customers, and then we file and remit on the back end of the fully automated process. That's what we do. I show this slide every single time I do a demo, and I stole this slide from John Litwaz. Okay? Everybody has seen 100 million different how it works slides. There's a bunch of them out there. I have found this one to be the most simplistic. It goes back to being simple. So it's usually title slide and then this slide. And this is just an explanation on getting a customer to understand how it works. And on our team specifically, our team has our customers have a really hard time of understanding that we're not updating eAutomate anymore, that we're not putting rate tables into Sage, that this is completely taking out what happens inside of your ERP, e-commerce, or CRM system, and we're replacing it with a cloud technology. Okay? So this is how it works, and they have to understand that. Because what does this talk to? What do most people do?
Great.
They take a rate table. They take the rate table and do what? You can say it, Nick. You can talk.
They calculate it, and they calculate it in there.
What happens if a rate changes?
They don't really change.
And they got to go do a manual update, right?
Yeah.
So that's what they think they're going to have to do with Avalara. Newsflash. I know the answer to that question before someone asks it. When someone assumes what Avalara does, what do you think they're going to do? They think Avalara is going to do that same thing. They think that Avalara is going to send them a rate file every month. They're going to have to upload it. Right?
Yeah.
How many NetSuite customers say, oh, we already use Avalara? James had it last week, and he's not even on the NetSuite team. You know what Avalara provides to NetSuite?
Rate tables.
A rate table. That's it. Is our stuff way different than a rate table?
Yes.
This slide is the point of that. The point of this slide is to show the prospect that they are no longer responsible for maintaining tax tables inside of their platform. The main purpose of this slide is to illustrate that they are no longer responsible for updating a manual process. Is that a checkbox?
Yeah.
Is that a checkbox?
Yeah.
Let's go back to discovery calls, okay? What's a discovery call designed to do?
Find out why.
Find the list. What are you doing today? Why are you doing it? What are you doing today? What's the point of the demo? Check every one of those boxes, guys. Okay, check every one of those boxes. So if I have a customer that's using a zip code-based rate file and they're uploading it into their ERP, have I just checked the box by showing one slide? If you don't believe that, tell me. This is not a situation to where I'm going to tell you that my way is the right way. This is open for debate. I'm just telling you, this is the way to explain that you no longer are responsible for uploading rates. When a rate changes, we take responsibility and we update it on our side. Does everybody understand that? Okay? Here's my talk track. Avalara is a cloud-based application. So we're not going to live inside of your platform. We have something called an API, which is a simple piece of software that makes two systems talk to each other. So when you guys create an invoice, a quote, a proposal, or whatever the situation may be, transactional data goes through that API, we evaluate it, and then we send it back to your platform in about half a second. Any updates, any changes, any rate changes, product taxability changes, any changes at all related to sales and use tax are all updated by our content team and pushed into the tax engine. So Alex, here's what that means. Every single time you guys create an invoice, we will automatically give you the appropriate tax calculation in real time. And by the way, we guarantee that. Does that make sense? Okay? Go ahead.
This is Cleet. So one little, just maybe a little nitpicky thing, but actually, if you look at our turnaround times in regards to sales tax calculation, we're actually under 200 milliseconds, about half a second. So, because again, when you look at customers when they get on, their website, it's all about customer experience, and so speed matters. So
absolutely.
FYI.
Yeah, no, and I mentioned that. It's half a second. It all happens in half a second. Okay? Okay. All right, so the next slide is, and I always use this slide. I use this slide every single time. So typically, 80% of the demos that I do, it's my title slide, it's the slide I just showed you, and it's this slide. That's it. I typically only show 3 slides. Okay? To Cleet's point, This is now what I'm going to talk about as that tax decision happens in half a second. This is the algorithm that Avalara uses. And I talk through this whole thing. So this is what we do. For those that didn't know, when we do a tax calculation in our tax engine, this is exactly what we do in that half second. Step one, we need to know where the customer is located. We do that a couple ways. One, we're always looking at the shipping address. In most cases, we're looking at the shipping address. When would we not look at a shipping address? Origin-based tax, okay? Typically, we're going to look at where the customer is located, and based on your Nexus profile, we're going to do a couple of things. One, we're going to validate that shipping address. Do you guys ship a lot of product? Do you guys already have a validation software installed? Sometimes you'd be surprised. People pay for that. Well, you can eliminate that if you're using Avalara. That's a little bit of an extra ROI that has nothing to do with tax. And now you can talk about the story of, see, when we validate that address, we're converting it to longitude, latitude. Because what Avalara is going to do is use the exact rooftop location of that customer to determine the jurisdictional boundary and go way deeper than just a zip code. Remember, Justin, you told me last week that that's what you're using today, is you're using a zip code-based rate file, and we've talked about that there could be more than one tax jurisdiction that falls within that zip code. The house on the left could be 8%, the house on the right could be 8.5%, so really what's the right one? With Avalara, you don't have to worry about that, because we're going to find out where that customer is located, validate their address, and almost put a red pin on top of their house. Way more accurate than what you're doing today. The next thing I'm going to look at is who is that customer? By the way, Chris, how many customers do you deal with that are exempt? And they're going to tell you. This is when I start talking about CertCapture. This is when I start talking about their exempt certificates. Because there's a lot of times here that I'll ask them to repeat again, what's your process around certificate management? And it's also going to go back to doing my homework. We have a connector called ECI M1. 95% of the customer base is manufacturing distribution. So how much time do you think we spend on number 2? 95% of the time. I'll go ahead and tell you the answer. If I have someone that's selling clothing on a Magento shopping cart and they're in two states and everyone's an end user, how much time do you think we spend on number 2? Not much. I'll tell you the answer again. Second time. Okay? So the second thing I'm looking at is who is that customer. The third thing I want to know is who's the product. And I'm looking at that at a line item level. I want to know exactly what the product is and or service. And I want to know exactly how that product and or service is taxed at that location. Because let's remember, what are you doing today?
What rate?
How does this compare to that rate file? Night and day. Okay? So we're going to automate that whole process, and this is the tax decision that we make in half a second. If there's no to any of the answers to the question, we return back 0 tax and keep moving on with life. Okay? Any questions on that? At all?
How much time do you typically spend on these, call it choose slides?
5-10 minutes. 5-10 minutes. I'm going to a little more detail now just because I'm trying to explain the thought process behind it. 5-10 minutes. I try to be in and out of my whole demo in 30 minutes or less. I want to leave the rest of the time for questions. And what you'll find is when you get really good at these demos, you're going to see those people are going to start having conversations amongst themselves, and you can just go on mute and listen. You guys have seen that. James, go ahead.
Kind of in line with that question, frequently when you do your discovery calls, you're typically dealing with maybe the end user, one person, and then your goal as a salesperson, hey, we're doing this demo, who else do we need to bring in? How does your time change when you have, new people who come in who weren't part of the discovery call? You mentioned making that person walk through their process again. What do you want to do when you have new people who haven't been part of that discovery call? As you go through these initial slides, kind of talking about product accessibility, Nexus, et cetera.
Yeah, so I try to use, that's when I may use that first slide that I showed,
right, just
to go back. That's when I may have to do a little piggyback and may need to go back and do a little instruction to those new people to give them a high-level concept of what we're doing. It goes back to the ground rule of compare and contrast. Even though I've got new players in the game, if I'm using what John mentioned and said, hey, you told me this last week that this is what you're doing, even if I have new players in the game, they're probably still going to understand that process and we're comparing and contrasting. Right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But look, you've got to go back. If you've got new players, you're going to have to go back and get them up to speed a little bit.
Right.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
One of the things that I do is, I usually will have a slide that says what we've heard thus far. So let's say if your initial conversations with someone from the compliance side, but the technology people weren't there, or vice versa, you could then say, this is what we heard, and it kind of gives an overview.
So I'll caution you a little bit on that. What I've done, I used to do that too. I used to do a list to where I was telling them what they told me.
Right.
What I would recommend trying is, hey, for the group, for those of us that haven't been here, would you mind taking 5 minutes and walking us through your process again?
Right.
It should always come from them.
Okay.
I'm under the impression that if I agree with you, by the way, there's pros and cons to both arguments, and I think it would depend on who the customer is.
Yeah.
I think if it's a really enterprise level customer and you're in front of 10 or 15 people, the agenda slide and the what we've learned slide and that type of stuff slide is probably impactful. For what we're dealing with on a day-to-day basis, I typically like to get them talking again about their process. So again, they're taking ownership, and it's not a situation to where I'm trying to convince them that this is what I think I heard them say. I'm literally saying, well, Daryl, you just told me that you're doing a zip code-based rate file. Let me show you what it looks like with Avalara. But I agree. There needs to be that kind of recap. And sometimes I'll take 2 or 3 minutes at the beginning of the call and say, hey, can you just recap?
One hard lesson I've learned is you can never count on the people within a prospect organization that you've already spoken to and educated to carry that message up the chain, down the chain. Anytime you have new people, you almost have, I wouldn't say start over, but you need to make sure that message was delivered, if not by you, or to your point, bring up those pain points again, make them walk through so they can understand why they're on the call.
Exactly. Exactly. All right, any questions on the PowerPoint? Okay, thank God, we are done with PowerPoint. Okay, so let's talk about having a plan. Okay, first off, can everyone get here? Let's just start with the basics. Can everyone log into the dashboard? Can everyone put in their username? Can everyone put in a password? And does everyone have this saved in a bookmark that's really close to the first bookmark that you see? Sorry to be so basic, but let's just start there.
And is everyone using the same login name and password, correct?
Yep. I think you can go in and create your own if you want to, but I wouldn't recommend doing that without talking to your manager and getting approval to do that. Can everyone on do this? Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Rick. So I have my own instance. I integrate tightly with Acumatica, and I don't have access to exemptions and returns. I put in a JIRA request, but nothing yet. They're disabled.
Okay, so you need to follow up with Travis and make sure that you get access to that.
All right.
Anybody else on the phone have issues getting here? Okay, so I'm going to go back and give Cleet, I'm going to go back and piggyback on Cleet's point. Cleet's right. Why would I show you the full demo when you don't want that, nor do you need that? You should know exactly what we're going to show in this demo before the demo happens. Because of what? The discovery call. I've got a list of things that I want to checkbox on. As soon as I check all the boxes, you should no longer be doing a demo. Now you're to the point of closing and negotiating and getting the deal done. Does that make sense? So to Cleet's point, Cleet's got it in a way, and Cleet's in a market to where he's not required to do a demo. Okay, the MLM space doesn't really need to see a whole lot of that. Okay? There are other connectors that absolutely have to see it. E-Automate people, they got to see it. Okay? Agility, they got to see it. They've got to see the demo. They're not going to buy off on it until they can see it. But to Cleet's point, just show them what you need to show them. Okay? And do a little homework. Let's start with having a plan. If you go to the Transactions tab and you go to the tax calculator, back to the future reference, this is the flux capacitor. Does everyone know what the flux capacitor means?
Time travel possible.
It makes time travel possible. Okay? The basic tax calculator makes your demo possible. Okay? The whole AvaTax dashboard is the DeLorean. This is the flux capacitor. Little context. You guys will always remember that, by the way. Always. Here's what you need to do. The origin address doesn't really matter, so I just pick one. Someone give me a scenario that they've come across recently. Tell me what state they're in and what they sell.
Georgia installation.
Georgia installation of what?
Furniture.
They install furniture. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I need to
deliver.
So first thing I would do is I would go to the customer's website and I would find their address. But we can't do that because I don't know who the customer is. So I always go to Marriott. So listen, Christine Martin. So I'm going to go find a Marriott hotel in Atlanta, and I'm going to steal that address. Okay, 200. So I'm going to come over, and again, this is my homework. Okay, this is not in front of a customer. This is what I'm doing in advance of the customer. $30339. And this is all I have to put in, validate. Okay, so I'm just finding an address because I want to make sure that I'm in Georgia. And Nick said we're going to install furniture. So the next thing I need to do is find out if there's any varying taxability around that. The home run for me would be I can find an address that's got, and I can find a zip code that's got more than one tax jurisdiction, and I can find a product or service that is varying in the state where they're located. That's a home run. Okay, and if I can do that in advance of this demo, then I can really easily show them this basic tax calculator, and in about 2 seconds, show them what our tax engine can do. And then they'll be done. I can check that box and move on to the next. Okay? Really easy, guys. Put an amount. I usually stay simple, $100. The new thing about our new platform is I'm going to come over here and type installation, and all my stuff's going to show up. Okay? So I'm going to find the one that's best applicable to what Nick just said. Installation services where item becomes real property? Nope. Installation services with the sale of TPP. I like that one. Let's save the line item and calculate tax. Here's what I just found out. That service is non-taxable. Does everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay? This service is non-taxable. Is that a good thing or a bad thing for us?
It's okay.
That's not a good thing.
She's also in Florida.
Good point. But for this conversation, I'm looking for something that maybe it's non-taxable. So questions that I would have to know in the demo is what else do they sell? So if they install the furniture, what do you think the chances are that they actually sell it? Do you think they're good? Okay. So if I want to find that out, let's come over here and let's add a new line item.
Well,
go ahead.
So you're saying it's bad because so you're assuming that this customer only has Nexus in Georgia and they're selling a product that's non-taxable, correct?
Well, we're going to get there. We're going to get there. This is just what we're using initially. I'm not making any assumptions because at this point in the game, I know where they have Nexus. There should be no assumption at all.
Well, that's right. So I guess that's what I'm saying is if it comes back as a zero sales tax, that can be good. It could be good. It could be good if Georgia's the only state they have, and the only thing they do is install furniture, and they don't do anything else. That's bad. Well, that's not good. Yeah.
That's my point of doing your homework. That's my whole point of doing your homework. You need to know what you've got or what you don't have, and you should be doing your homework right after the discovery call, because that should also tell you how you're going to prioritize this demo in your self-working pipeline. If they're in one state and the only thing they do is install furniture in Georgia, how much of a priority is this demo? Not a whole lot. Versus someone that's in Georgia and Florida, they install and they sell it and they ship it and they do all this other stuff. I promise that's a lot of varying taxability. Okay? Furniture, we'll see what kind of furniture it is. Let's just see what happens. Let's say if it's hospital furniture. Say the line item, calculate tax. See, this is the thing that's been happening too. I got to put a ticket in for that. But see, this kind of stuff, do you know what this is terrible? You know what that red box is terrible during? A live demo. It's real bad. It's not good at all. I've done it. It's catastrophic. For whatever reason, there's a bug. So during John's 20-minute prep session, I guarantee you that John is running through some transactions just like this to make sure he doesn't get a red box. You know what that red box means? You might as well hang up the phone. Oh, your stuff doesn't work, Chris. How can I partner with Avalara if it doesn't work? Okay? And you can say things, I hear it all the time. Oh, this hotel Wi-Fi not working too good. We're in a sandbox account, so your production account will be way better than this sandbox account. That's terrible. That's terrible. Okay? The problem is we've got a little bug that it's deleting the shipping address and it's deleting the go-to address for whatever reason, and I'm not sure as to why, but it is. There's not much we can do about it. So, this is the kind of stuff you got to worry about. So here's my new line item, calculate tax. So here's what I've got. So now I have two line items in Georgia. The top line item is the item of installation of the furniture. The bottom line item is the hospital furniture itself. So I would ask a question at this point. Joe, based on what you're doing today inside of eAutomate, do you have the same level of detail in an automated fashion where you don't have to take any action against it?
Absolutely.
Would this be helpful in your business moving forward?
This is wonderful.
Awesome. You're playing along nicely, Joe. I appreciate that.
Dreaming for this kind of solution.
Can I send you a
Years
proposal?
now.
Be great. I need some proposals in my life. Okay? So let's go back, and here's what I'll do. So here's my baseline invoice. Can everyone do this, by the way? Can everyone do this? Has everyone practiced doing this? Can everyone go in and do this? Everyone's shaking their head. So I have
It's a red box, too.
Okay. So do this before your demo, and make sure that you know what you're going to show in this demo. And if there's a red box, it means before you click calculate tax after you add a new line item, you got to go back and put in the shipping address and the destination address again, or the origin address and the destination. That's what it means. Okay, so go do that. Now we're going to change it. Now we're going to go to edit document details, and now I'm going to change the address. This is super powerful. For a customer that has Nexus in more than one state, if I can show them the same items on an invoice that have completely different tax outputs in the different state locations, home run. Does everyone agree with that?
Yes.
You said Florida, Nick?
Florida.
Plus you get to check rates on hotels if you're going to go to Orlando anytime soon. So win-win. Trying to add value at every step of the way here.
Chris, is there a way to, you can't save changes, right?
Can't change, can't
So
save
what
change.
would you recommend? Just having like a Word document with this already pulled up that you can toggle back and forth and
Yep.
copy and paste from?
Yep. Now, here's what else I've done that's been super strong. I'll use their address at their location, and then I'll ask them for an address in another state on an invoice that they have. So rather than, I don't have to come up with the addresses very often. I'm typically asking them to give me an address on a recent invoice. Hey, you guys said you do business in Florida. Can you pull a Florida invoice and give me the address? Oh, by the way, can you tell me what was on that invoice? What'd you guys sell? What's the item and all that good stuff? So let's go back to the furniture example. All I've done is change the address, save the document detail. Here's those two line items that are still there. Let's calculate the tax. Well, it changed. Now look what happened. Now the top line item, which was the installation, which was not taxable in Georgia, now it is taxable in Florida at a different rate. And of course, the furniture itself, which is tangible personal property, is also taxable. How are you doing this in eAutomate? Because remember, this is what we talked about. This is the way you're doing it today. You've got a zip code-based file, which is based on zip code, and it classifies every product as what? So I got to ask the question, how are you maintaining taxability around the installation of the furniture? Walk me through that process. What do you think that answer looks like, guys? You know what happens at that point? They start talking internally. God, I'm telling you, Nick has seen it in person. It happens. They start talking. Well, Daryl, Daryl, don't we do the flux capacitor and the DeLorean for that? Well, no, Jim, I think we do the other thing. No, I don't think we do this for that. I don't think we do this for that. Now they're talking about it. Right? I haven't said, here's what I never said. Hey guys, did you know that installation is not taxable in Georgia, but it's taxable in Florida? Did you know that? Because I know that, because I know a lot about sales tax. I didn't make anything up. I didn't come up with this phantom product that they may or may not sell. I directly asked, what do you sell and how do you sell it? Remember when we did discovery call training and that was one of the big things? How do you sell it? What do you sell? Why do you sell? It's not for part, it's for this. So I can go back and do this homework. So now when I go to do my demo, in about 8 seconds on the basic tax calculator, I can show them everything our tax engine does. Everything. I don't have to go to the transactions tab. I don't have to go through the settings tab. I don't have to go through the NetSuite tab. I don't have to do anything. To Cleet's point, that whole process, when you're good at it, will take you about 5 minutes. Chris, does that help give you an indication of how our tax engine would be able to automate the way that you handle your sales tax? Cool. Are there any questions about how that would work? Awesome. Checkbox. How many times have you done this? John, Neil, I'll lean on you. How many times, or Cleet, anybody that wants to pop in, how many times have you done this type of setup on the demo and the room has gone crickets?
Especially for, well, I mean, it's not applicable to you guys, but a lot of software companies, when you can show those variances is powerful.
Because they're not doing it. They're not maintaining this inside of eAutomate. They can't. Someone has to go into eAutomate every time this invoice gets generated and change it to keep up with this taxability. Everybody does. Why would you do it that way? It doesn't make any sense. Does this help? Are we connecting dots?
Chris, this takes an even bigger step if you put shipping in as a third line item. Freight, because they ship it. And it won't be taxed. But then after this one, you change it to the state of Ohio. So you keep the Florida again.
Hey, it may be annoying, but it's what we got to do. Let's see, $74.99. It's a lot easier when you're not on this big screen either, by the way. So now I've got my Florida address back in there. Let's go save the detail, calculate the tax.
And
Found out that freight's not taxable. So now you want to change it to Ohio?
So we mentioned our third state is Ohio.
Okay, that's fantastic. So let's go over here and change it to Ohio. This is what I mean by planning. Oh, that's Columbus, Georgia. Look at that. That would not be okay.
I don't think that one's validated. Number.
You're right.
How often do you get thrown off, like if someone asks you, oh, can you show me this instead? Does it ever like mess anything up from what you practiced?
What would they, give me some context around what would they?
I mean, like let's say you're doing this company that you're working on right now and you've gone in ahead of time and made sure that the addresses and the line items were going to show what you wanted to show. But then I've seen like in market and training where sometimes you try to pull something up and it doesn't pull up, or like an item or something, or if you change the address and it doesn't prove the point that you're trying to prove, and maybe you practiced it ahead of time, but then they throw you off course by asking a question. You know what I'm saying? Like, how do people ask? I guess I'm asking Abbott and of them as to know.
So I would say if you've done a good job in discovery, they shouldn't throw you any curveballs.
Okay.
And I'm taking a long time to show you how we demo. You are not going to take this much time in real life.
Right.
To Cleet's point, I should know everything I need to know in that discovery call. And it's going back to that foundation of, if I don't know all of that, then I shouldn't do the demo. So there's always going to be something that's going to throw you off.
Well, I just meant this specifically in the transaction.
There shouldn't be. There should not be, which again is why you're coming back to do homework.
Yeah.
So what I just did is I found out 5605 Blazer Parkway is a terrible address. It doesn't validate. So I've got to go through and find one that does. What's really embarrassing and really terrible on a demo is you're doing what I'm doing with you guys in this training. It looks terrible, clunky, ridiculous, because you're trying to find addresses to a Marriott that they could care less about. It's really impactful for you to get information from them. It's really, really impactful to ask them for addresses. You should always ask them to give you stuff, not tell them stuff. Don't tell them anything. Go ahead, Justin.
So also, like, kind of backing that up is, on the calls that I've sat on, when you've asked them for specific addresses, every time they've actually gone and like pulled a certain invoice that they know they've had trouble with in the past, they've given it to you, and even if they got the tax right when they did it, like they're giving it to you because it obviously took them a while to figure that out. So just like seeing that and how quickly it works, like
That's right.
like then you just leave this page, you don't even have to stay there.
That's right.
So like I think if you are able to get that address, like every time I've seen you do on a call, it's like you do that one address and like, oh, I actually can do this and it's done.
Game over. Because they're going to try to find you the address that they're going to try to catch you up. They're going to try to end this conversation real fast. They're going to try to convince themselves and you that they're never going to buy Avalara because your stuff doesn't work. That's why it's really important for them to tell you instead of you tell them. Here's another reason it's important. If you're just listening to people, it's really boring. I can see it on some of your faces in here. I'm not saying anything bad. I'm just saying that if you're not participating and if you're not talking, you're not listening, you're not engaged. That's human nature. I'm the exact same way, right? So you have to get them engaged and they have to talk to you or this won't work. And things like asking them for addresses and asking them for what they sell and asking them to give you stuff to try to break it, I challenge them to break it. Hey guys, try to break it. I'll send you a $20 Starbucks gift card if you break it. I had a guy, I forget who it was with. You, I think. The guy in Georgia, maybe it was with you, I forget. This guy in Georgia, he gave us 15 addresses. And the whole demo was him giving us addresses in the basic tax calculator. And he said, if you can validate all 15 of these addresses, I'll buy it. He signed it that afternoon. It works, okay? But you got to be able to use it. So Ohio, Nick, to your point, all these items are taxable, where in Georgia they weren't taxable. So I've got 3 invoices, one in Georgia, one in Florida, one in Ohio. All 3 have different stuff, and I changed all 3 and got that tax calculation in about 2 seconds. The tax engine checkbox. Any questions on that? Sure? On the phone?
All good.
Okay. You guys are either asleep or you get it. Either way, I'm moving on. All right. So the next thing I'll show is certificates. Exempt certificates. I know, does everyone have CertCapture access? Not many people do anymore. New people do not have it anymore, I know, for a fact, right? No one new has CertCapture? Keith, you don't even have it, right? No. You have it?
I haven't lost it.
Everybody, okay. So you don't need CertCapture. You can talk about what CertCapture does right here inside the dashboard, okay? And Keith, I'll let you explain it because your CertCapture elevator pitch is probably the best one I've ever heard. So what do you tell people CertCapture is?
CertCapture is a document management system that validates or automates the collection, storage, archiving, and validation of certificates. Basically turns them into living documents.
Basically turns into a living document. Okay, let's go back to a manual process. What do most people that have a manual process do with certificates? I'm going to give them a little more credit. I'm going to give them a little more credit.
Maybe they scan them.
I'm going to say they got them scanned.
Best case scenario, they scan them.
Yeah. So I'm going to give them a little, you're right, Neil, in a box in a filing cabinet. If you can't talk around that, then you probably should go do something else for a living. But for the most part, I mean, you give them the benefit of the doubt and you say that they're scanned and they're stored. I hear reps all the time say, well, with CertCapture, you can scan your documents in and they'll be digital. Yeah, you know, Dropbox does that for free. Not for $1,000 for 250 of those invoices. You know what I'm saying? The key to CertCapture is it turns that document into a living document so you can manage your exposure against when that certificate expires, when it becomes invalid, when anything goes wrong with that certificate. Keith, how do you do that today? They might have told me that process 5 times. But because I'm here on the screen and I'm about to start talking about it, I want them to tell me that one more time. What happens in Florida, for example, when that certificate expires every year? What do you do? What do you think the answer is going to be?
I didn't know it expired.
Really? Most of the time, that's what they say. Oh, it expires, and now what else am I going to do at this point? Just like I did before the tax engine, what else does this do? Internal conversation again, right?
Yeah.
Here's a trick, and this is kind of sales 101 type stuff. If they start talking internally during your demo, you're winning. Okay, just news. I didn't put that on PowerPoint or anything, and it's not going to be in my notes to you because I think you should know that. Okay, if they're engaged and if they're talking, you're winning. And here's what you shouldn't do, and I've seen this. Don't interrupt them. I will kick you out of the room if I'm in there with you, literally. I'll hang up the phone and make you leave because that's ridiculous. I've seen it happen. I've seen people, oh, hey, hang on a second. Let me help answer that question for you guys. Get out of the room, pups. Get out of here. All right. So here's what you guys should do. You guys should go back to your desk and you should request a certificate. How many people have done this? Okay, you should. Put your name. Put your email address. It does take a little while to come back. So Nick brings up a good point. Nick, you're whispering back there, man, like a church mouse.
Sorry.
Okay, so Nick brings up a really good point. Here's what you can't wait on. It takes about, sometimes it takes 5 minutes, sometimes it seems like it takes 5 years for you to get this email back from our system. Okay? So what you should not do is do this during your demo. It happened before. Well, what will happen is we'll fill this out and you'll get an email in about 8 or 9 minutes. How's the weather out there in Dublin today, Keith? Yeah, sunny in California. Cool. Is it in there yet? Not there yet? All right, yeah, fine. Is that a dog in the background? I have a dog. I like dogs. Is it there yet? No? Okay, cool. Do it in advance. Do your homework. Trust me, do your homework. Okay? But you should go do this when you get back to your desk. Please. Fine. Send request. Well, I'm not going to send the request because guess what I've done? Ah, man, I've done my homework. So I've got this email minimized on my computer screen, just so you guys know. So this is my second screen, so I've got an email minimized. So in less than a hypersecond, I can pull it up and drag it to the screen. See, this is what that's going to look like. But the difference is going to be this. That Avalara logo is going to be your logo. And with the click of a button, you're going to send an email to your customer, and they're going to have a couple options to collect that certificate, or you're going to have a couple options for them to get it to you. What we would prefer is they go to this link that's already embedded in that email, and we're going to walk them through a wizard online that's going to create the certificate for us in real time. Let's do that. I'm going to accept the terms, click start. Here's a trick. Make a note. You got to click start. Well, I thought you did. You have to click start twice sometimes. Okay? So up here, these are all the certificates that require action, and these are all of the certificates that your customer has completed, ready to go. So they're going to get to see visibility in this wizard as to what certificates they have under file. We want to create a new one. Nick, which state do we want to use?
Florida.
See, I'm asking them. I don't want to say, oh, let's fill up a California one. Well, we're not in California. Oh, well, if you were in California, this is what it would look like. Tell me a state. Florida. So here's another little trick that we've learned. If you do a Florida certificate and you say that it's resale, it won't work because Florida doesn't accept an electronic copy of a resale certificate. You should note that.
Yep.
You should note that because I've done that in the demo. And guess what happens? Oh, disappointment. I'm not interested in disappointment. Okay? I'll save you guys the clicks because an exercise that you should take after this is go do that. It's really easy. You click a button that says purchase will be resale, you put in your number, you can sign it electronically, and then you move on. You should do that. I'm not going to waste time doing it here. And here's the impactful thing. Once you've completed that whole process, in real time, you can go back to the demo, click on Steal, click on View Exemptions, and I can show the prospect right now the certificate that I just created for Texas.
Arizona and Washington also expired.
Here's a copy of that certificate for Texas that we just did in about half a second. That's a drop the mic moment, just so we're all clear. This is another one of those moments where I need to stop talking and let that sink in for just a second. Follow? And it's easy. I can show cert capture in just that screen. Wow, that's cool. Okay? Any questions on cert capture? Because guys, that's it. If you can show that, conceptually they'll get it. Now, if you need to do a deeper dive, your leader should have access to cert capture. I have it for my team. If your customer needs to do a deeper dive in cert capture, should you know that in advance of the demo? Probably. So you should invite a resource on. If you don't have access, you should invite a resource on that does. Any questions on that? Okay, filing of tax returns. Super simple stuff. So Avalara is going to file all your tax returns for you in an automated fashion. So when you log into your dashboard, you're going to click on this month's return filing, and the most recent month's going to show up. Okay? Someone's on day. What's someone done? Someone's gone in and committed the transaction inside of our console for November. Your data lives in May and June. Okay? Make a note. Your data lives in May and June. Here's another way that your demo is going to look like crap. You're going to pull this up and you go, yeah, we're going to automate the filing, and it says $0. And there's no data. Well, if you did have data, it would show up here. And if you did have this, it would look like this. Don't say if. This is what it's going to look like. Does that make sense? Okay. So I always select May. Can anyone guess why? That's not been on one of my calls before. Cheaters. Anyone guess why I choose May?
Completed return.
It is completed return. There's one state that I want to point out, and I use that one state to show that Avalara handles their filing calendars. California. In California, kids, it's called the BOE, the Board of Equalization. It's not called the Department of Revenue. Make a note. You should make a note. You want to know how you sound smart? Call things by their right name. That's also Sales 101 type stuff. Did you know the Department of Revenue in California is really hard? There's no such thing. What about the BOE? What do you think the people that call the state of California and ask them about sales tax questions, what do you think they talk to? They talk to the BOE. So if you're making a blanket statement that this is the Department of Revenue, you're missing the boat. You know how I learned that it was the BOE? Because it shows up in our tax calendar. So here's another action item from this call. If you think that in this hour-and-a-half session that we haven't even really started uncovering everything in the hour that we've been here, if you think you're going to learn it in this hour-and-a-half, you're wrong. Let me just go ahead and newsflash that one for you too. You're wrong. You have got to go back and do this 100 times. I can remember sitting at my house doing demos until probably 12:30 at night, and that's embarrassing. That's stupid. But now I'm really good at it. So another action item is, guys, if you don't go back to your desk and you don't take time to go click these buttons and figure this out and understand what it makes sense for you, then I can't help you. Follow? Okay. So I selected May because it's not the end of the quarter. In California, for the BOE, a customer has to remit every month. What does remit mean? Give money. They have to file every quarter. Okay? The paperwork. So here's what I can show. If I pull May, I can go to California and see that we've got so up here is my remittance that I'm going to remit. We're going to remit $18,888 to the state of California, but I'm going to accrue all of that down here for the filing. And oh, by the way, I love this feature that we've added. This is the form. Does that look familiar to you? Does that look like the same form that you have to do every single month? Yeah, cool, same one. So we'll handle this part, and then we'll also handle this part. So you guys no longer have to decipher about what's being filed, remitted versus what needs to accrue down to be filed, because Avalara is going to handle all your filing for you. Make sense? I kind of clunkied around that, but come up with a talk track that makes sense there. Okay? So I position returns this way. So imagine that you have, how many states are you in, Nick?
5.
So imagine your 5 states are each due $100 a piece. So the total remittance for your quarter or for your month is $500. There's going to be an ACH from your company to Avalara for that full amount of $500. Avalara is going to have a power of attorney on file, which will go in and file each one of those returns and remit that payment to each one of those jurisdictions on your behalf. So you're no longer responsible for that action. You'll log into the liability worksheet. You'll check the numbers. This at a high level is the remittance amount that we're going to ACH from your account. We're then going to go file that return. You're notified when that return is filed. And if you ever want to come back and see your return, you come up to the tab, look at your returns history, and in pretty quick fashion, I can download all of my returns for September 2017. Let me go back.
It's November.
Oh, I got the wrong date. Thank you, Dave.
Download file returns.
Download file returns. And it's not available.
Right.
Got to show May. See? That's why we do what we do here. Again, this is going to come to you in a zip file. See this? You know what you should do is save the zip file to your desktop. Okay? So here's the zip file. I'm going to open it, taking time. I don't want to take time. And this is what it looks like. I got a new change screen. So here's a copy of all those returns. You guys can store these returns locally, or we keep these returns here in our system for up to 7 years. Any questions on returns? Go play with it. Yes, sir.
When you discussed transactions, you talked about the guarantee. Any mention of the guarantee around our return system?
Absolutely.
Can that drag you into the weeds? You just kind of keep it a guarantee to be on time, guarantee to take advantage of the early filing discount?
That's right.
Okay.
All that stuff. So we guarantee our returns. For those that don't know, we guarantee our tax calculations and we guarantee our returns. So I will typically say, not only do we file the returns, we guarantee them, and then we also answer any and all tax notices that you guys receive from the Board of Equalization or from the Department of Revenue. So if you go back here to the tax returns tab, I can look at tax notices, and this is where we're going to look at all those tax notices that you guys send to us. So to summarize, you got 5 states. Let's say that each state's due $100. We're going to ACH $500 total from your account into ours, file the returns, remit the payment, guarantee the return, and then answer any and all tax notices against that return. Okay? Any questions? Last thing I show is reports. So another thing that you guys will need to understand, and another thing that I explained, is that the sales tax reporting that you're currently using inside of your ERP today, you won't use it anymore. How many people have you prospected or talked to that one of their pain points is the reporting? Quite a bit, right? The report's hard. And think about their business process today. Why do they need those reports?
Because they might get audited.
Don't you need the reports to file a sales tax return? So every single month, it's someone's job to log into the ERP or whatever the system is and download a report and take the information out of that report and use it to file sales tax returns. I guarantee you that that's a manual process that someone would like to offload. So even if they don't do returns with it, because that may happen, you can tell them that it's way easier for you to come out and look at reporting with Avalara. And I always go to a tax return report, and I always go to the top one, always. And I'm always going to put in other range, and I'm always going to put in May. And this mouse has a delay. It's terrible. So here's that report. And if you preview it in HTML, what that gives you the ability to do is to start clicking on hyperlinks. And I just talk about it. As I click on hyperlinks, I'll drill down into the report, and then I'll eventually be able to look at the invoice number and what that customer bought and how they bought it. So all of the widgets that I've shown you in this fancy URL can all be exported in a nice little report that you guys can use for whatever you want. So you don't have to always go into the URL, look at the widget, and then click on it and use that as your source of truth. You can always take these reports out, export them, and store them locally, and it gives you all the information that you need. Super strong in an audit, super strong for tax returns. Reporting is really important to a tax person, in case you did not know that. Reporting in Excel spreadsheets is like Fireball for us. Just to put a little perspective. Like oranges and Fireballs, okay? Spreadsheets and spreadsheets and Excel documents, I mean, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's what they do. It's what they look at every day. And if you've ever looked at a tax professional, has a tax person ever sent you a sample Excel sheet?
Yeah.
Their report? That thing looks like it could launch a space shuttle. There are more numbers in that spreadsheet than anyone can take a look at, compared to what we've got over here. And I will typically leave this report on the screen until I'm finished with the demo. I usually stop here. This is my stopping point on the demo piece. And I'll usually tie it up by saying, guys, it's good news and bad news. Good news is there's not much to show. The bad news is there's not much to show. And then I'll ask this question. Is there anything that you didn't see that's a current business process that you have today? What do you think most of the answers are? No. Cool. So is it easy to see, and would it make sense for you? Does it make sense for Avalara to become a partner? And that's when we start talking about closing and negotiating, which we'll do at another time. Yeah?
To that point, what could we highlight or show to sort of tee up that piece of it? So, for example, justifying, let's say, activation fees in addition to like a per returns fee. Like, let's say you sell them the buy down at 545, 48, you know, once they're filed. What can we kind of highlight and say, hey, we do this, we set the funded POA, we do this, this, and this, so that later when we're negotiating with price, we go back and we have to say, hey, you have to charge us 545 because of these items that we do on your behalf for you. Sort of justify some of it. I mean, maybe it's a different conversation.
I don't talk about it now. I don't bring up price now. And I don't like going into what I will do is when I do talk about price and I talk about the buy down fee and the activation fees and all that stuff, I'll reference in the demo what we did to do that.
Yeah, so I guess that's kind of what I'm asking. Maybe we can get a list of like, what are the things that we can call out in the demo, the necessary points for setting up like a return service that we say we're going to cover, so that later when we're talking price, we can say, hey, well, in the demo we showed you we did all these things. This is what the reason for that fee. And again, maybe that's not something we have built up.
So all your setup is done right here, because customers are going to ask that question.
Yeah.
So let's talk about setup real quick. Okay? So customers are going to want to know what the setup may look like. And it depends on who you ask. Talk to Pat Fall, 90% of his time was set up on that home tab. 90% of the time. That's where he spent all of his time, is walking the customer through the buying process and through the implementation process. Talk to Mark Giddens, his is the complete opposite. He spent maybe 30 seconds on the home screen and talking about all the setup and all the stuff. Two different schools of thought. I'm not saying that one's right or one's wrong. I'm just saying that they're different. I'll touch on the settings to what Cleet talked about. I just got to get a feel for how important that is during my discovery. If I've got the IT team on the phone and IT's talking about implementation and steps and all that stuff, then I may do a couple of things. Depending upon your connector, I'll go to the Avalara Help Center. So here's another news flash. Did you guys know that if they buy Pro Support and they get a Go Live consultant for 30 days, what do you think they do during that 30 days?
They help them.
It's on the screen. This is what they do. Step one, find your accounting software to get started. Okay, cool. E-Automate. Whoop. Not there. Okay, ECI E-Automate. And again, this is all prep work. Set up your company profile, set up your returns, install and configure AvaTax for ECI. Now I'm on an ECI web page. How strong do you think that is? John, how powerful is it for you to pull up NetSuite and show them how AvaTax looks inside of NetSuite?
Super powerful.
How much time do you spend in the dashboard versus NetSuite?
Very little.
0 time. Because why? I mean, why? That's what they use every day, right? Pups, when you talk about Tax Connect, how often do you demo inside of Epicor? Not you specifically, but we have an Epicor instance, right, in which we show them what it looks like. We don't do that. Cool. Thanks for playing. Thanks for participating.
You didn't want to ask me that.
No, I did not. I should not have done that. That was a mistake. That was a big mistake.
This is the red box.
So in this,
I'm just here to listen.
So in this example, I'm gonna click on eAutomate, and then I'm gonna go in here and use Avatax and eAutomate, and I'm cheating a little bit here because I've done this 800 times because this is one of my connectors, okay? So I challenge you to go back and learn this for your connector. And let's just repeat the steps. It ain't hard. Find your integration to get started, search for it, and by the way, here's all our integrations. Here they are. So find it and see what's there or what's not there. So you can easily toggle over to a website and say, oh yeah, Mr. IT, you got questions about how to set this up? You can do it just right here. And I just start scrolling through. And then I say, I'll send you this so you have time to review it. That's probably going to make the IT person stop talking. Because here's what we know. What should we know about the IT piece of this project? Not that hard, right? John, how long does it take to enable Avalara inside of NetSuite?
Download the bundle in 10 minutes.
10 minutes. How long does it take inside of TaxConnect, Pups? You should probably find that out.
Epicor takes quite some time,
Okay.
but they do it. They're in charge of it.
Okay.
They do it all the time.
The point is, here's the
connectors,
point.
right?
If it's not an API custom build, do I need a lot from IT? Do you think IT likes that or doesn't like that?
They like it.
They like it a lot. So let's take another step back. If I'm doing a discovery call with IT, what do I need to push for before I do a demo? Would this demo be impactful to an IT person? Would any of my demo or talk tracks be impactful to an IT person?
No.
Do I have the right person on the phone? Why would you waste your time pitching the IT guy? If it's not an IT project.
If IT uploads rate files, it might make sense.
100%. Like Oracle, believe it or not, if you use a big Oracle ERP platform, for the most part, IT is responsible for uploading the rates. Let that sink in for a second. I was flabbergasted when I heard that. It's a big word, Keith. It means confused.
John Fairwood.
Yeah, it means confused. Okay? It means, one might even say bewildered. Okay? One could say that. So here's another action item that I have for you guys. Go to the Help Center, find your accounting platform that you sell into, and learn how to implement it. The folks in Durham, we have a Go-Live team that sits right up there. Go ask them, how does it work? Go get on a call. Okay?
They love for us to sit on their calls.
Guys, here's the thing. Here's what you're going to hear a lot of people say. Well, what is everybody doing? Like, here's where we're at. If you don't have a lot of, I will steal Greg Stiver's. 3 things is what you should do. Do we know what those 3 things are?
Hence,
Close deals.
build the funnel, get better at those 2 things.
Build skill set. Those are the 3 things. That's it. Those are the only 3 things that you should do. If you're not closing deals, and if you're not building pipeline, then you should be in this help center learning how to sell your connector. You be a pro. Be a pro. You love the Lakers. For some reason, you love the Lakers. I don't know why. For whatever reason, Keith, you seem to like the Lakers.
Better than LeBron.
And we'll talk about Lonzo Ball, even though I don't think he's so. How many? Just use any analogy. I mean, I hate to use Michael Jordan, but I will. How much practice does Michael Jordan do before he plays? I play golf, and I play it terribly, and I practice my ass off, and I'm still bad at it. It's true. But the more I practice, the better I get. So another action item is go learn to sell your connector, guys. It's all different. It's not the same. Okay? And you do that in the Help Center. You do that by asking other people questions. Close deals, fill the funnel, build skill set. If you're not doing the top 2, you should be spending all your time doing the third. Not playing ping pong, sorry. Shouldn't have said that. All right? Settings, easy, guys. I don't even go into this anymore. The settings is easy. You start at the top and you work your way down. You tell us where you remit and collect tax. You tell us what you sell and how you sell it. You set up the company profile. We're off and running. Any questions on the setup? Cool. Moving on. I'm of the opinion, and again, PathFall has an opposite, that I don't spend a lot of time on the setup because I've been through a go-live call. I've been through the setup of my connectors, and I know that it takes about 30 minutes to set up an eAutomate customer from start to finish. That's how long it takes. Now, I would never say that. We can have you live in 30 minutes. Never. Because they don't have their stuff together on their end for our Go Live team to help. That's another piece of the puzzle that you guys don't understand. They got to have their registrations. They got to have a bunch of stuff. Okay? Any questions on this? Does anyone have any questions? Does anyone have any feedback?
Really good stuff, Chris Hopper.
Thanks, Hopper. You're a giver.
You're a good guy.
I like your new haircut too, by the way, man. It's money.
You got a haircut?
He did. It looks good too, man.
What happened?
Hopper looks like 30 years old again.
Hopper, get on camera.
Yeah, Hopper.
Get on camera, Hopper.
We need the camera.
Hey, does anybody have any questions?
I'm down at Blanco today. I'm down at Blanco today. Thank God.
All right. Dameron, do you have anything to add? That's a scary ask, by the way.
No, sir. I have nothing to add at this time.
Woo! Safe. Safe. Patty, I'd be interested to get your take on this. She gone.
She might be on mute.
Rick, I'd love to get your take on this.
Oh, I've learned a lot. I appreciate it. It was great stuff. I'd like to get a copy of your slide deck because there was that one slide that you had that simplified the flow of AvaTax to the ERP and to the jurisdictions. That was a simple view of that deck. And then with Acumatica, that's all I'm selling. That's my connector. It's so tightly integrated. It's embedded already within Acumatica. I literally clicked the checkbox and I was up and running. So really easy. And I guess for me, I'm not sure how I'd end up using the tax calculator and getting in there and showing the line items that you did because it's already done in Acumatica and it calculates everything. I barely go into the I go into show report and the AvaTax. I don't show much.
Yeah, well, we need to get you access. We need to get you access to returns and cert captures so you can show those pieces as well.
Yes.
Okay. Good. Clete, anything you want to add? He gone. All right. Listen, for my team specifically, practice this because probably at the end of next week you're going to do a role play with me on this. I'll throw that out to anybody in this training. So if you want to put time on my calendar to role play this, my team has to get certified on this before they can do a demo on their own. That is not a blanket rule for all teams. But if you want me to do a role play with you on this and walk through your clicks and all that good stuff, I'm happy to do that. Here's what I'll tell you. It is not as easy as you think to make your technology work. Let's start there. Okay? Nick Voucher, God bless his heart, has never used a computer before he started at Avalara. Never. Never. He's never once used a computer. I promise he's never used two screens before. Ever. In his whole life, he's never used two screens. Okay? Nick, never once.
This one?
That's what I said.
Cell phone and the TV in the bathroom.
Straight up. Step one, okay? Step one, guys. Know how to use technology. Hook in a dongle is what they call it. I didn't make that up. I worked at Lenovo before here. I know that that's what it's called. It's called a dongle. Hook it into your laptop, turn on the second laptop, and set up a GoToMeeting and call someone and make sure your GoToMeeting works. Step one. Then you need to pull up, and I'll share the slides, put a PowerPoint together with your face on it, with a logo on it, and talk through those slides and time yourself and see what it looks like. And then practice moving screens around and see what that looks like. Your first run at this is going to be an absolute train wreck. We won't get through it all in an hour. You won't even make it to returns. Got it. Well aware of that. I call it burning waffles. Mark Giddens calls it a little something more vulgar that I won't say because we're being recorded. Okay? Burn waffles. You got to go practice this stuff because if you look clunky, they're going to think it looks clunky, and there is no way in hell you're going to get to proposal. You're not going to get there. But if you do it right, and I don't want to speak for myself, I've seen Clete do it right. I've seen John do it right. I've done it right. My guys have been in there with me when I've done it right. It's drop the mic type stuff, right? Wow. Nice. Cool. Awesome. Now it's a matter of price. And guess what we don't lose on?
Price.
Preach it, son. Is this helpful?
Yes.
All right. So my team is definitely going to set up time with me to do this, just so we can role play it, because they've got to do this for me before they can go do a demo on their own. There is no chance. We don't have enough pipeline. None of you do. Nobody has enough sales working pipeline to afford to lose a deal because you didn't practice your demo. And I promise your sales leader is not really going to be that enthused about your progression if you're just taking a really good sales working pipeline, and because you didn't practice and you didn't ask for the right resources, you just thought you'd go wing it. You can't. I've tried. I am the wing it champion. I try to wing it every chance I get, and it usually fails miserably. Cool?
Very cool.
All right. Thanks for your time, guys. I'll send the recording out.
Thanks, Chris. Have a good afternoon.
All right, see you guys.